What's popular, YouTube? Another day, another demo, and I have been loving doing these LAN demos for you guys every single day, and now we're starting to up the frequency again. The channel's going crazy with the uploads. The thumbnails are moving in the right direction. The videos are getting lots of interactions. Every video is like a 1 of 10 right now. It's been great. It's been fun, and it has been a resurgence in viewership for CSGO in the competitive scene, with IEM Cologne being a first LAN back, the LAN none of us knew we needed so badly. You know, the one where it's just driven so many storylines. There've been so many fantastic performances, almost nearing a record number of aces. A lot of teams got a LAN buff that has brought and regenerated a lot of, you know, important brand attention, like Astralis making playoffs, FaZe making playoffs, G2 looking so damn good, and all the star players at the top all chipping in to put on, you know, stellar, talked about performances, like Simple in the 1.5 something rating out of the group stage at LAN, and he hasn't had a rating that high out of a group stage since I think it was DreamHack Marseille in 2018, something like that. So even throughout 2020, he never achieved these heights throughout a group stage, which is pretty insane to think about. And, you know, we've got playoffs coming up. It's super stacked. And I've been just thinking about how many games I want to do. So I got some help with the stream to put together a short list of demos I want to do from this. And because we've got the LAN starting up again with playoffs this weekend, I want to try to do a few of these and then just move into those playoff games and then keep this list so we can go back and do them when we maybe run out of some content when the LAN's over with and there's no LAN after that, and then a break and etc. So a few of the games that we've looked at that I definitely want to do the most are these three right here, Nafany, Twist, and Olof. And today we're going to do olofmeister because he played against Vitality and played at this LAN for FaZe and has looked like a top 3 player on the team. I mean, by I think by the standards of anybody who is watching for what looks like an impactful play by someone who looks like they're confident, who looks like they're not lost in a round, I think it's very clear that Olof is leading the way for FaZe in a lot of the rounds. He's picking up the slack. He's filling in the gaps. He's playing important positions. And he's doing a fantastic job. I mean, this guy couldn't be further from washed. It is so crazy to have a player that has this many accolades, that has won his majors many years ago, 1x major MVP, on the Mount Rushmore of Counter-Strike players, a top 20 players 4 times over, last time being in 2017, has been the #1 off the bench, you know, savior for FaZe consistently, I think 3 or 4 times, and has talked even about specifically his motivation when it comes to being one of the GOATs of the game and having to roll out of bed to play online CS, and how it's hard to be motivated to do that when you've already won everything. He said it himself, the player who said, "I'm not the best player in the world, but no one is better than me," famously. And for him to come back immediately into this LAN after playing, you know, a little bit here and there for the past year, coming in for FaZe when they couldn't figure out who to replace a certain player with, most recently Coldzera, and just destroying. He's been so good. I mean, I think the only reason we saw him at the only reason we saw FaZe at the spring finals was because Olof came in as a last-second replacement in the groups and like pulled up and won them a couple maps. This is a guy who it can't be understated. I mean, he's like the least washed player in his category. The guy who's done it all, who's been around the block, and has taken a break and coming back. I mean, I honestly, it makes so much sense that he has achieved so much in his career. And, you know, for those of you who missed it, he was a part of the famous Fnatic roster, where they're probably the second best team of all time, probably, you know, SK, that Fnatic roster, and Astralis. For a long time, the storylines like who is the best, which one would win at their peak era. I think, I don't know if I speak on behalf of the community, but for me, I think without a doubt, it's Astralis of all time. But Fnatic were this really special team who played off meta CS. They didn't try to play optimized CS in any way. They were impossible to copy, and yet they were able to win so damn much. And Olof was at the helm of that, along with Flusha, bringing in most of the stats in the 2 majors that he won. Flush is a 3 times major winner with a one major MVP as well. Pronax, of course, 3 times major, and it's just a very famous lineup for that reason. But Olof, in terms of his impact on different maps, is outrageous. You know, on Train, there's a spot called olofmeister. On Cobblestone, there's a spot called olofmeister. I mean, the way that he played positions, sometimes, I mean, there were even, I think at both majors they won, Flusha had slightly better stats than him. He wasn't clearly by far and away the best individual performer on the roster. It was just that if you were watching the games, you could see how much damn impact he was having and how much he was at the front of rounds and how much he was, you know, making plays happen. And that's the magic of Olof. Now, the other thing that was brought up before we hop into this demo to me, to set this up, is this is going to be a CT side cat demo where he played very well. And we want to compare this to some of the other CT side cat demos, because the propaganda of the week is talking about how important CT side cat is and how cat is the new connector. That so much attention on the T side has been put down on connector to muzzle it, to make that connector player so useless that now the cat side of Mirage has started to open up more options. And there's, I think, more ideas coming into the idea of playing in ladder room and how much vision you have on cat and how fast of rotation you are to A. That means now cat is a little bit more, it's a little bit more open to some of the best star players to play in. So it's a very important role. And Olof does a great job from this position. So we're here to learn from him and compare it to what we saw from Bit recently in the last demo we did, as well as Axile in the past. Still config of all time, of all the demos we've done on CT side cat players on Mirage, config stands above Mir, he stands above Bit, he stands above Axile. He was the #1 best cat player that I've ever seen personally. And that was from a demo from, I think, last year, maybe even a year before that. So that's the #1 demo I would go back and watch on this channel if you want to watch the perfect cat performance, in my opinion. But let's see where Olof stacks up, because he definitely had some very good impact. Oh, yeah, and one thing is that Kerrigan said about olofmeister when he came back onto the roster. He said this to me before Blast Overtime. I can't remember if it was live or it was before it started. But he said, Olof is the kind of player who makes his teammates play better. And immediately when he said that, I was thinking, man, the last time I saw Rain smile on the camera, the last time I saw Brokey smile on the camera was the last time Olof was playing on the team. Literally at the last blast before that. Like, this guy is a mood elevator. This guy does bring up the people around him. And clearly, FaZe got semifinals energy right now. I don't know if they'll do it. I mean, it's pretty damn unlikely. Okay, listen. If FaZe win IEM Cologne, I'm like drinking the FaZe berry juice right now. Okay, all the FaZe fans in the chat who really believe FaZe can make it to the grand finals. If FaZe can win IEM Cologne, that would be equally as impressive as Cloud9 winning Boston. And I don't know exactly what that means, because Cloud9 did win Boston, but can lightning strike twice is what I'm trying to say. It's very unlikely. It's very unlikely. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up. It's very unlikely that FaZe win, but they do have that semifinals energy right now. You know what I mean? It feels like a miracle run is happening right before us. I have no idea what we're going to see in this quarters, but I think it would take I'm going to say I think it would take an enormous choke for Gambit to be able to lose this. Okay, so this would be a tough one. But okay, no more stalling. 29 years old, olofmeister, playing cat on Mirage, one of the most important spots for one of the most important teams at the moment in FaZe Clan. They're trying to recover their brand. They're trying to do justice to Rain's career. Add accolades to Brokey's career, who clearly is such a top player at the moment. Trying to justify the sacrifices and, path of Kerrigan to take the risk of coming back to FaZe from Mouse Sports. There's kind of a lot on the line for a few of these players, and it feels like the light is waning a bit. Who knows how long Kerrigan's going to stick to it. When we were at when we were at Blast before the overtime, Kerrigan was saying, not always do the best players win the biggest events, and that's true. That is 100% true. I was just listening to Shaq talk about this with basketball players. We've had this conversation about players like Simple, who doesn't have a major. There's Messi in that game called soccer that everyone seems to love. There's a lot of examples and of times in team games where the best players don't necessarily have the biggest accolades. There is an element of luck. There's an element of your team needs to be kind of good. There is an element of there's so many variables. Okay, there's so many variables when it comes to having it all work out to the point that you can just win everything. Olof had that on Fnatic already, and Twist had that with Grand Slam Liquid. But yes, FaZe were this close to winning that major, right? And then who knows what happens from there. But we didn't get that version of reality, and now it's been a dark arc since then. And this first land back appears to have just brought up so much confidence. And I think so. Actually, what was interesting is the last time that I saw Olof playing with FaZe was Olof and I believe Coldzera playing B together before Twist was on the team. So I don't know exactly how the spots have worked out now. But when I just saw Olof spotting B, I was thinking, wait, he was an anchor when he came into sub last time. Okay, but now it's Kerrigan's going to be anchoring, and he'll be dedicating himself up cat. All right, so let's see how he plays it and in what way. Already something that's interesting is not playing pushed up all the way on cat immediately. Now, versus ecos, so this is the second round of the half, versus eco rounds, playing on cat itself can be really risky. So we can see right now our man Orange, Brokey, is in window spotting cat cross, right? He's making sure that if Olof gets flanked, he'll be able to know off a comm. But sometimes you don't want to play. This is actually how Flesha plays B, the way Olof is playing right now. Famously, on the old Fnatic, this is the exact angle that Flesha would always play. So when I was playing cat on my team, I watched Flesha because he was so consistent at holding. And I liked watching Flesha because he didn't have the most magical aim, but he was more consistent. But what is really good about playing close to the site on the ecos is that if they do hit it, fighting the window from cat sometimes is not a fun angle. It's not a fantastic angle. But here it looks like there's a lot of info here. They got the bomb and everything. Everyone rotates out of the site. They kill pretty much everyone. No problem. So sometimes it's better like on pistol rounds or on anti-ecos to not necessarily play off of cat or play closer to the site with your teammate, because if your site mate dies by himself and no one's close to trade, sometimes you have a very unfun time trying to kill players crossing into the site. And maybe we'll see an example where Kerrigan loses his opening duel, and we'll get to see what the response is from Olof, because we didn't get to see that, I think, in the bit demo, and it would be cool to actually explain what the adjustment should be if your B anchor dies. And I think I went over it in the bit demo, but I'm not sure there was a perfect example. So again, we're floating a bit. We're playing very reactive here from FaZe. They're not being denied any information, so they're keeping tabs on pretty much everything. Brokey very active in middle. And as long as you have a ticket player on the A sites, your window guy and your connector guy or whatever don't have much to worry about. They can just focus on underpass and top mid and just spot. So sometimes the hardest first step when it comes to playing against a team you're scared of or a round you're scared of peeking is taking that first peek. But once you have the line, it's more on the other team to try to deny that line from you. Throw an empty flash out mid so they can go back and fake to another site or whatever. But sometimes it is very good to still play for info, even if you're versus pistols, or take that opening risk, especially these days where it's not necessarily anymore that pistols are so overpowered. It's that people got better at using them, like the two-shot Deeg body spam, or in general, people are just better players now, so pistols are just naturally going to be stronger. But look at this; they actually overstack. This is that's totally a solid flash for Olof to throw, but Kerrigan dies in the back of site, so it's not useful for him. But you can simply help your team by flashing over the top of that roof if you need to support your team in the B site. Okay, let's see if there's any chance to win. We've got a big flank in play. Okay, Olaf dies inside of the market. And I actually think that Olaf only has 2 deaths in this whole half, if I'm not mistaken, which is pretty miraculous. So here's one round they lose, and it's because Olaf doesn't go... Ooh, Olaf doesn't go towards B, or isn't in B that late. All right, so here Olaf is trying to beat a timing, and this is a moment where you take the op, you post up on this hard angle to the top of mid. You can see this, the cat smoke that's going to be down is going to give him an opening, and you're going to be able to see players crossing. And this, it just is a way to counterplay against the cat smoke. You could do this jumping up into cat. You could do it going into ladder room the way Olaf did. And because Olaf didn't jump cat, he has less confidence that they haven't crossed yet. But the way he did it is much safer. And now we see the opportunity eventually comes, and he's not really scared of top boxes. So this is an interesting one. Olaf smokes there on the left side of connector, so his teammate can peek underpass. And now they'll come back towards B. There's an angle for him to shoot. Yeah, they're just perfect with that boost, really. And this line is so powerful, too, even if you don't take this shot. Because right now, Olaf posted on this position. They can swing and start spamming him. They won't have full vision of his head. He might take some damage. In a seriously horrible situation, he would die. But most of the time when he's posted like this, it's as if you are pushed to the back of B halls, right? There's only so much that the other team can do versus this information. And you know, see, Olaf is like, okay, they seem pretty clear that this is going to be some kind of A hit, but, oh, they're already on the side, all right. But with Olaf, he can leave his post early because he has so much deep information, right? It's 30 seconds. If they haven't set up yet and we have this information, there's no way it's going to be a B hit. Boom, we can leave early. And that line is not very risky, right? You take that position and you just don't move. And even if you're not physically at the, end of where your scope is aiming, you don't have to be sure that it's not going to be a B hit or your teammates can rotate. And so just a very clean round. Another comment that Kerrigan made about olofmeister that I thought was great was that he's like, when you watch Olaf play, he doesn't do anything special. He just doesn't ever take the wrong decision. Just continuously makes a good decision after another. And basically, you watch him play, and you're like, oh, that was optimal. Oh, that was the right thing to do. Oh, that made a lot of sense. And it is true that he does strike a balance. And I think the real beauty of olofmeister is that he can be an aggressive player. He was a very aggressive player on Fnatic. He was the guy taking a lot of nade damage and a lot of defaults, playing off a corner of a smoke, whatever it was. But for Olaf, it's not looked at as a risk to be aggressive. It's just looked at as correct or incorrect, right? Better or worse. And that's how everyone should play ultimately. That in CS, playing passive is not necessarily better. It's just about what is the best decision to make. And if you can see clearly through the interference and just make what you feel is the best decision, sometimes you might look crazy or a little bit too aggressive, but most of the time you're going to have impact. And that was the big thing, right? It's one of the most impactful players of all time. And I think that was the big thing. So here the last player is stuck in halls. There's no rotation for him to make. Oh, he made it all the way around to A ramp. My God, he was fast. And Olaf just posts. Simple stuff. But yeah, that tenant is important just for anybody, right? No matter what your style is. Guardian actually used to be pigeonholed into this narrative that he was a passive opper. And I asked him, he was actually a player I interviewed the most, I think, in my professional career when I was doing a lot of interviews. If anything special happens, we're tuning back into the match. But what's already interesting is just a lot of opping. Okay, hold on. There's an interesting rotation here. So now Kerrigan swaps places with Olaf. Olaf wants to try to continue to catch someone off guard. Taking this smoke goes deep into the halls, and Olaf is trying to watch this for a second. Let's see how he reacts to his own smoke. I think we're waiting to see if it'll get disrespected or if some flashes will come over, something like that. Maybe he's purposely throwing this so that he thinks they'll lurk. And it's also a low number situation for Vitality, so he's waiting for the gimmick plays. Honestly, it feels like in the situation where it was 5v5 here, you would be less inclined to watch the end of your smoke in a spot where it would never make sense to push this, right? To take that kind of risk. But Vitality have already lost 2. So it makes sense for them to try something a little bit risky. So instead, he leaves his posts again, and Kerrigan's there with vision off Cat. This flash is also very good. Pops behind your 8 players or off the side of them. Look at the flash assists on the screen. Super easy to throw. One thing you'll realize when it comes to figuring out what flashes to throw offhand for your teammates is just throw them over top of a roof that they're standing under. Throw them behind them and don't tell them, or throw them behind them. And because sometimes you don't want to be like overcomplicated calm, but if there's a moment where you notice your teammate's going to be facing forward, don't call flash and then say turn around or don't turn around or whatever, because it actually be too confusing. Just make sure that flash isn't going to pop anywhere that they can see, basically, and you can just do that so easily for your teammates. So some easy flash assists to be had, flashing over the top of A. And the only thing you lose out on when you throw these flashes that are so easy to throw, where they're high over buildings, is that if you throw them high over buildings, they're going to be after image flashes. So you're going to get like half a second of blindness, not much, but it might make a difference, right? That's sometimes enough to make someone unpeak something or rotate off or whatever. And if it's easy for you, go for it. But yeah, that situation, it's definitely not something, maybe don't try this at home, but there are certain situations where you can, mess your team up by calming something like, don't turn from this flash, I'm flashing, and then you flash, something like that, in a spot where you could flash over a roof behind them. You don't need to calm that because they won't turn around for no reason. But maybe don't try it at home. Okay, maybe don't try it at home. And maybe don't try throwing incendiaries at home either. I actually had to burn an extra grenade for this. The 3-player B setup, it feels like in this spot, they're waiting for some heavy B action to come, some kind of full B hit. And we're now seriously overstacked. So here's a spot that Olof can't play. We talk about compromising spots a lot. Here's a spot that Olof can't play without Kerrigan sitting in ladder room. If Kerrigan's not in ladder room, Olof cannot sit on this pillar because he's exposed to Cat. If he was playing with he has a player sitting on the B side. So this is a great call from FaZe. They're in the right spot. They can focus on their positions. Olof hugs close to the wall to specifically dodge flashes, even though it's sometimes not great to be too close to a wall. And wow, it's just a frag movie for Olof. He doesn't hit the last one, but he gets the info. Nice little no scope to deny that op. Changing hands, and a strong call from Kerrigan or whoever it was to read that a B hit was imminent. And again, this play to go off of Cat. We saw last time that Vitality decided to flash out. This time they'll be a bit smarter and run boost over. And somebody asked earlier in chat if pros use decoys. And this is the round I remember. Pros do sometimes use decoys. And here's a spot where it's actually kind of a gamble. You see him switching between a couple of angles because sometimes a player's head can pop out on the lower ramp. It depends what vision your connector and window guy have. But sometimes you're going to be switching between a couple of angles. I find, and this might be personal preference, but if you're switching between the angles and these, it's going to make your flick, I think, a little bit more consistent. The more that you are like actively thinking about it or practicing it just a little bit. And also, that's just the nature of holding an angle sometimes. Patrolling is sometimes the best course of action. And here we're just so heavy on the A side. Teammates doing most of the work. We got a little vision on mid. The site anchors have been doing a fantastic job overall. It's not been a high volume of bombs going down at maybe one where Vitality actually did convert. It's just been all FaZe clan the whole time. Setup wise, they look super strong here on CT side. And the beautiful part about Olof, as I mentioned before, the shots just don't look too hard, right? He's putting himself in good spots. He's getting solid information. He's got a variety of different opening tactics that he's using to keep it fresh. Like he'll go back to the jump up ladder out to Cat and then hold the angle on top mid. And then he's done this twice because he didn't get spotted the first time, and he had success on the other play. And other than that, he's just not repeating anything. It's not weird, different, unique ways of playing the spots, but he's not getting caught off in moments where he feels like he can push. And look how close he's getting now. He's got a very intimate connection to the stairs here on B. No one can come off of that underpass lurk. He's also covering the late B lurk. And again, the anchors have done a fantastic job in this game. And that is another thing about FaZe right now is they're shooting hot. Brokey, strong CT sides. Twist, strong CT sides. Rain, actually, super fantastic land. I was so over Rain in 2020 playing online. It was bad. It was not looking good. But we're back to LAN. It's made way more of a difference than I expected it to. Rain looks way better at this LAN. He's still not like the star player of the team like he used to be when FaZe first started. There was a period where Rain was the best player by far on a team full of stars. But he's doing his part. His shots are looking good. I think his stats do really tell the story well. Here's again that same boost pick. So they double up on the incendiaries, and we take this deep line. And again, we've got 3 times that Olof has done this, but he hasn't been spotted here once, and this information has allowed the A players to focus. Look what's so crazy about this with the A flank coming in. And here, that shot, ooh, that's interesting. Wow, he actually just comes forward off that. Now, that's a moment where someone might fall back off the info. They've actually got the players to spare, which is interesting. Olof is putting some pressure on to make sure that they don't just run up after him. And that just makes this flank even more effective as it starts to come through. And now they don't realize it, but they've just been honeypotted into rushing into B with a double flank coming out, and it's still being walked. Absolutely no chance for Shox, whether he knows it or not. It's 15-11 for a FaZe. And you can see the pressure there, specifically from Olof, is because the round was basically won in his eyes, and him delaying only did his team a service there. It's also knowing when you have a chance to go. If Olof goes 1 for 1 and dies, he's still done his team a huge service, because that means that Vitality are more likely to go B. That means that he's delayed Vitality. That means that if he doesn't die and they don't peek, he's delaying Vitality, and the flank all the while is coming in. So here we go again. This is the pressure towards the top boxes. It's the first part of the plan on the T side. Oh, nice adjustment. That flash does its job, and Kyojin doesn't hit his first bullet. And pays the sweet, sweet price of death because of it. That would have been the 3rd time Olof died in this half. Again, we've looking at two deaths from olofmeister in this half. Not quite the 15-0 half that we saw from Nico yesterday. But still, we can see why. He's just been very pragmatic and elusive on the map in all these different rounds, keeping it fresh. And once again, I mean, a team full of stars. 8 anchors do the rest of the job again, and Olof is just in a spot where he's rotating. I mean, that was pretty much exactly what we could expect. I mean, okay, now on the list, we're going to have a list, okay, of top cat CT Mirage players that we've demo reviewed. Olof here, he wasn't even pushed to the limit with only 2 deaths. Vitality didn't do much to cause him problems. He did everything well. He got his kills at mid. He didn't die at mid. He got deep B control without ever dying a single time. He was rotating in a smart way, but really never had to help fight with A. So for that reason, I can't really put him above. I can't put him above Bit. I think Bit was a bit more versatile. I really like how Bit used ladder room a lot more. The way Olof was playing was a bit more. It's not one-dimensional, but it was a bit more standard, I would say. I wouldn't put him above Axile. I feel like Axile's out here playing, being like probably the best rifler right now, playing 2021 CS. With a lot of details in the way that he plays. I don't put him above Config. Config's still #1 for me in terms of all-time most perfect Mirage CT performances. But it's not bad. It's not bad. It was just like a 7 out of 10 because they didn't push him to the limit. So that was it for Olof. another CT Cat Mirage player demo for the books. I actually want to do olofmeister CT side nuke as well, because I feel like he does show a bit more pizzazz playing ramp than most players do. I think he plays ramp and the lower rotator better than most top pros are playing right now. And I would love to be able to show why. But maybe we'll get a demo out of this playoff run that we can go back to, and also look at maybe for Brochure twists if we want to look at something new. But I hope you enjoyed that, and yeah, phase up. Good luck in the playoffs. I think it would be quite a miracle run, but it's already been fantastic to watch them play. It's way more fun watching them play. And as always, in these past few demos, I'd just like to say it's so nice to see like the bigger brands having a resurgence on LAN, making it into playoffs and having the old names. I think it's very good for CS. It's been fantastic to watch. So I hope you enjoyed that, and catch you back here for another demo in another day.